my name is Hido, and welcome to the Pantheon, where Innistrad keeps rumbling on, and we're into, some interesting Tim-based activities. And Timothar is one of them. Baron of Bats. 6 mana for a 4/4, legendary vampire noble. Ward, discard a card, so if it will be targeted by an opponent, they have to discard a card to be able to target it. Whenever another non-token vampire you control dies, you may pay 1 and exile it. If you do, create a 1/1 black bat creature token with flying. It gains when this creature deals combat damage to a player, sacrifice it and return the exile card to the battlefield tapped. Now that is just a massive wall of text, isn't it? But it's really quite cool. You can constantly reuse Enter the Battlefield effects. You're using those bats, maybe you can sacrifice them. You're sacrificing your original creatures. I've dubbed this Aristocrat bats. It's like Aristocrats, but more sort of flappy in every single way. So I really quite like this commander. He's quite cool. Nice piece of artwork. Nice, Bats Vampire Lord. Who doesn't like that? And the nice bit of protections there, because he does cost 6 mana. He's quite the investment. But it costs you nothing to invest in subscribing to my channel. Please join. We're going to be making videos like this for every single legendary creature, and then maybe a few other types of videos as well. So come along for the ride. And now, without further ado, let's have a look at my top 5. And in at number 5, we've got Yahenni Undying Pattern, a vampire that's also a sacrifice outlet, because we want to be able to get these bat triggers and turn things into bat when we want, when we've got mana available, because it does always cost that 1 mana. 3 mana for a 2/2 with haste. Whenever a creature an opponent controls dies, put a 1/1 counter on Yahenni Undying Pattern. Sacrifice another creature, it gains indestructible at the end of turn. So you can keep this on the field with indestructibility. It just works fantastically. This grows and grows and grows. Any board wipe, well, we just sacrifice one of our things, make a bat. And then, well, we've got this on the field still. It's fantastic. Similarly, there's a lot of vampire sacrifice outlets to put in the deck. Bloodflow Connoisseur, 3 mana for a 1/1 vampire, sacrifice a creature, put a 1/1 counter on it. So this just grows and grows and grows every time you sacrifice something. So a really nice use, and it can also sacrifice itself if you really want to generate a bat. Then we've got Viscera Seer, 1 black for a vampire wizard. Sacrifice a creature, scry 1. You can just keep putting cards to the bottom, all those lands in late game, and then dig for all of your big impactful spells. So really quite nice. Then we've got the Indulgent Aristocrat, 1 black for a vampire noble with lifelink, and you can pay 2 and sacrifice it. So not a free sacrifice outlet, but put a 1/1 counter on each vampire you control. We're very much a vampire deck, so that ability to just buff the whole team will be phenomenal. Sadly, the bats aren't vampires. Not sure why. It's sort of a vampire bat, isn't it? But, big flavor fail there, magic. And that brings me on to number 4. And at number 4, we've got Aristobats. Hey! Christ. Aristocrat style cards, because we're going to be sacrificing things. When the bats deal damage, they're sacrificing themselves to bring something back. Things are going to be dying. Yes, when we're exiling them, we are replacing the dies trigger, I think. But these sorts of cards work wonderfully. Blood Artist, 2 mana for a 0/1. Whenever it or another creature dies, target player loses 1 life and you gain 1 life. So that means our opponent's creature's dying as well. So any big board wipe, we're going to be dealing 20 odd damage around, depending on how many creatures there are. And it just pads the life total lovely. What? Oh, God, I'm gibberish. But here's a bigger version. Falconwrath Noble. 4 mana for a 2/2 vampire noble with flying. When it or another creature dies, target player loses 1 life and you gain 1 life. So exactly the same card, except it costs twice as much. But it's a 2/2 flyer, so it can get in there for a bit of damage. Then Bloodghast is a vampire that we don't really want to be turning into a bat, because it's so easy to get it back and keep sacrificing it, things like that. 2 black mana for a vampire spirit. It can't block, it has haste as long as your opponent has 10 or less life. And then landfall. Whenever a land enters the battlefield under your control, you may return Bloodghast from your graveyard to the battlefield. So even if you're just, drawing lands, terrible draws, but you can get this back, sacrifice it for another effect, works amazingly in the deck. And then we've got Callistra Highborn, double black and for a 2/2 vampire. When it or another vampire you control is put into the graveyard from the battlefield, you may pay a black. If you do, target player loses 2 life and gains 2 life. This can easily close out a game. Just keep sacrificing all of your vampires, because we are a very vampire tribal deck. Obviously, our commander just only really cares about vampires, and then bats. Stupid. Why are they not vampire bats? I'm gonna, this is the hill I will die on. But this is a fantastic card for just pinging away at your opponents. Oh no, I've not changed the thing over. What have I done? I've done it all wrong. Then let's have a look at number 3. So for number 3, we've got big enter the battlefield effects that we want to reuse using the bat technology. And obviously, they're vampires. So Champion of Dusk, 5 mana for a 4/4. It enters the battlefield, you draw X cards, and you lose X life, where X is the number of vampires you control. Obviously, we're a vampire tribal deck, so this is going to come in, draw us like 5 cards. Yes, we lose 5 life, but then when it dies, we can pay 1, make it into a bat, get in there with that bat, and then do it all over again. Just draw so many cards. This is a magnificent card. Just have such a big impact on the game. Then we've got Callous Blood Mage, a sort of little version of this. 3 mana for a 2/1 vampire. When it enters the battlefield, choose 1. Create a 1/1 black and green pest creature token with, when this creature dies, you gain 1 life. Ooh, nice. So a nice little token synergy there. And you can draw 1 card and lose 1 life. That's pretty good. Or you can exile target player's graveyard. And that is the reason I want to be playing that card. Yes, you can just cycle, best mechanic ever. But you can also just eliminate someone's graveyard. And Commander, lots of people like to use the graveyard. So being able to do this once, twice, maybe 3 times, just by, converting it backwards and forwards from a bat, will be phenomenal and really lock down people's gameplay. Then we got Patron of the Vein, 6 mana for a 4/4 flyer. When it enters the battlefield, destroy target creature an opponent controls. Ooh, nice, nice, nice. This is going to hit the biggest thing on the field. And whenever a creature an opponent controls dies, exile it. So, it's a bit of graveyard hate. And put a 1/1 counter on each vampire you control. It's just spiraling out of control. It's ridiculous how powerful that is. All of your vampires, not bats sadly, are going to be absolutely massive, and we can just blow up whatever we want. And you can sacrifice this, get in with your little bat friend, bring it back, destroy another thing. Then there's Malakir Blood Witch. 5 mana for a 4/4 vampire shaman, flying protection from white. When it enters the battlefield, each opponent loses life equal to the number of vampires you control. You gain life equal to the life lost this way. So this could just absolutely close out a game. Really, really splurge loads of damage around. So we've got loads of little vampire tokens and things like that. Well, this could be dealing 10 to each opponent. We'll gain 30. Then sacrifice it, attack with our bat. Boom, bam, bosh. We've dealt another God knows how much life. And that brings me on to number 2. And at number 2, we've got Haste Enablers, because the bats that we're using, they need to deal combat damage. And the thing with that is, well, a lot of the time we're going to be sacrificing things. Yes, we can do it on our opponent's end step, so that, we can go to the next turn and, attack straight away because they've not got summoning signals. But when we're doing it on our own turn, we want to really be attacking again with those bats straight away. So first combat main phase, we sacrifice something, turn it into a bat. Then we give the bat haste with something like Lightning Greaves, and then swing in, sacrifice it. We get another enter the battlefield effect in our post-combat main phase. 2 mana for an equipment. A quick creature has haste and shroud, so it can't be targeted. So really nice to just slide on our commander. Yes, he has the ward protection, but shroud is just all around fantastic, and it's 0 to equip. So just sliding this onto a bat is easy. Then the Swiftfoot Boots, 2 mana for an equipment, quick creatures, hexproof and haste. So again, another great bit of protection from our commander. And this will just do so much work, especially with the bat. Giving those bats haste is integral. And one way to give everything haste is a Chroma's Memorial. 7 mana for a legendary artifact. Creatures you control have flying, first strike, vigilance, trample, haste, protection from black and red. Whoo, that's going to be fantastic. Protection from red is actually really good because Blasphemous Act, one of my favorite sweepers in all of Magic, well, it deals damage and protection stops the dealing of damage. So your board state will be immune to that. And they've got flying, first strike, vigilance, trample, and haste. All our bats and vampires are just going to be streaming in there for tons of damage. And then a slightly different take on this is the Crashing Drawbridge. 2 mana for an artifact creature wall. 0/4 with Defender. Tap. Creature you control gain haste until end of turn. So this is really nice. Say we've sacrificed a bunch of things, made them into bats. We can then swing in with all the bats after we've, let the drawbridge down. They charge over there with the little horses. And then they deal 1 damage. And sacrifice themselves, which is it's a pretty miserable existence if you think about it, isn't it? But this is a great card for the deck. And that brings me on to number 1. And at number 1, we've got Skeletal Vampire. Ooh, a bit of bat synergy here. And this is more specific. It's a little combo that I like to put in decks like this. 6 mana for a 3/3 Vampire Skeleton. It's got flying. When it enters the battlefield, create 2. That'd be 4. Peace, man. 1/1 black bat creature tokens with flying. Pay 5 and sacrifice a bat. Ooh. Create 2 1/1 black bat creature tokens with flying, so you can just keep growing that bat army. Sacrifice a bat, regenerate Skeletal Vampire. So that's really, really cool. Using a bit of bat synergy. Who doesn't want to be able to sacrifice their bats to keep this guy alive? But the reason I really like this is because it comes in and makes 2 tokens. Now, some of you may know where this is going. Ashnod's Altar, we talked about sacrifice outlets earlier, is one of the best sacrifice outlets around. So Ashnod's Altar, 3 mana for an artifact, sacrifice a creature, add double colours to your mana pool. Ooh, now that's pretty goddamn good. We sacrifice a bat or, one of our vampires to ramp us into playing something else. And the thing with our commander is it costs 6 mana, which is pretty hefty investment. So sacrificing a couple of early tokens, that pest token I talked about earlier, well, we can ramp up there to get our commander out. But if we sacrifice the Skeletal Vampire or something like Grave Titan, which is a 6 mana 6/6 Death Toucher and it enters the battlefield or attacks, put 2/2 black zombie creature tokens onto the battlefield, and we have Nim Deathmantle on the field, which is a 2 mana equipment. Quick creature gets +2/+2, has Intimidate, and is a black zombie. Whenever a non-token creature is put into your graveyard from the battlefield, you may pay 4. If you do, return that card to the battlefield and attach Nim Deathmantle to it. So the awesome thing with all of these cards that make 2 creatures when they come in, we can sacrifice those 2 tokens to Nim Deathmantle, to Ashnod's Altar. Then we sacrifice Grave Titan to the Ashnod's Altar. Nim Deathmantle will trigger, go, hey, something's going to the graveyard. Do you want to pay the 4? Well, because we've made those 2 tokens and sacrificed them for 4 mana, we've got 4 mana. So let's bring back the Grave Titan or the Skeletal Vampire. They enter the battlefield again, making us 2 tokens. And we've then got 2 colorless mana floating from the sacrifice. So what we can do is then sacrifice the 2 tokens again. We then have 6 mana and just keep doing this over and over again. So we make infinite mana. And we've got infinite sacrifice triggers, infinite, death triggers. So all of our pingers that care about when things die, well, they're going to be pinging away, going pew, 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 you're dying, you're dead. So this is just a fantastic way of keeping our opponents dead. And, just making tokens is really good in a deck like this. But a lot of the cards that make 2 tokens, they're not vampires, so they don't fit in this sort of style of deck. So Grave Titan over here, he is a giant, which is, a very horrifying image to see. But what if we could make them into vampires? Well, we can use things like Masswood Nexus to make them vampires. Masswood Nexus, 4 mana for an artifact creature you control at every creature type. The same is true for creature spells you control and creature cards you own that aren't on the battlefield, including your graveyard. Pay 3 and tap, create a 2/2 blue shapeshifter creature token with Changeling, so that's a vampire as well. Doesn't really matter that much, but it'll get all the buffs from all our vampire lords and things like that. So having all of these things that make 2 tokens be vampires mean that we can keep them, in bat format with our commander. This is such a nice bit of technology. Then there's got Methadros Vampire, 6 mana for a 3/4 flyer vampire. Each creature you control is a vampire in addition to its other types, and has, whenever this creature deals damage to a creature, put a 1/1 counter on this creature. And I complained a bit earlier about the fact that, well, All these bats aren't vampires. Well, with all these cards, now they are. Ha 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 ha. If you can't make the deck you want out of what they've given you, just sort of hodgepodge something together. I wanted vampire bats. Well, now I have them. And then finally, we've got Conspiracy. 5 mana for enchantment. As it comes into play, choose a creature type. I'm going to go vampire. Creature cards you own that aren't in play, creature spells you control, and creatures you control are the chosen type. So everything is a vampire, including all of our tokens. Vampire bats. Vampire bats. I'm going to wear a nice big hat. I don't know what was going on there. But this is really great, you know, having all of those, bats be affected by our vampire lords is great. And those are my top 5 cards for Timothar. Cool name. Quite a cool little deck, you know. Aristocrats, you know, classic black style, but Aristobats is a nice theme, you know. And it's good to have cards like that around, you know, a bit individual. So really quite cool. Hopefully you've enjoyed this video. If you have, please do like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you soon. Bye.